Hi guys, it's Emma Vigeland with TYT Politics. I do know that I was just live, but some really important breaking news just came up and I wanted to share it all with you because this Senate Obamacare repeal and replace effort is so disastrous and so important. It needs to be talked about even more than it already is. I know that cable news likes to constantly talk about Russia, 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 and barely gives coverage to this. But now they have to wake up and give it coverage because the CBO score just came out for this repeal and replacement bill, the second incarnation of this bill that was deemed dead on Monday, but apparently showing new signs of life after this lunch with President Trump with the rest of the Republican senators. So the CBO score is still relevant even though there weren't enough votes on Monday at the start of the week. So this bill could still certainly be passed. We have to never let our guard down because it's incredibly important. But the CBO score now for this repeal and replace plan says this: 15 million would be 15 million more would be uninsured than what's currently under the Affordable Care Act by 2018. So boom, 15 million uninsured by 2018. That is a massive number. Could you imagine the chaos if this bill gets passed? 15 million people just thrown off their insurance or just uninsured. By 2020, 19 million more, so that grows by 4 million. By 2026, 22 million more. So the CBO score says in less than a decade, 22 million people uninsured. This party doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about the average American. What if they were just to repeal and no replacement? They couldn't scrounge together the votes for the second incarnation of the bill, and the plan B that many of the Republicans were saying was that they would just repeal it and leave a vacuum and leave nothing for health insurance and for health care in America. 17 million more would be uninsured by 2018, so that's a 2 million person increase. 2020, 27 million more. So already by 2020, 5 million more people than the decades-long 22 million people being uninsured with this replacement plan. So their replacement plan is better than just scrapping the Affordable Care Act altogether. But is that saying anything whatsoever? If they were just to repeal, no replacement, by 2026, 32 million people would be uninsured. This party is in the business of money and corporations and corporate welfare. They are not in the business of the American people. Oh my gosh, it's laughable. This bill, rightfully so, their attempts to repeal and replace are extremely unpopular because people have seen these numbers. Fortunately, there's a political awakening right now in America and people are seeing this. Premiums also would double under just repealing. Double! But Trump says, you know, everyone's going to get health care, lower costs for everybody. It's a lie. It's a flat-out lie. This latest plan does not include a controversial amendment from Ted Cruz allowing health insurers to offer skimpier coverage. And just so you know, both of these options would cut the deficit. Doesn't mean that we should do it just for those purposes because these are millions and millions, tens of millions of people whose lives are at stake. The plan would cut the deficit by $420 billion, and just the Obamacare repeal would cut the deficit by $473 billion. So again, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell abandoned this legislation on Monday because too few Republicans supported it for the measure to advance in the Senate. But after this meeting on Wednesday afternoon, and after they met also after their meeting with President Trump, the measure is showing renewed signs of life, although its prospects for passage remain dubious. What hasn't changed is what the legislation called the Better Care Reconciliation Act, you Orwellian, horrible individuals, would do. The dramatic increase in the number of Americans without health coverage would be the result of undoing major components of the Affordable Care Act. The bill would also slash federal funding for Medicaid by more than 30%. The tax credits available to low and middle income households to make private health insurance affordable would be smaller and offered to fewer people. By 2026, 50 million Americans would lack health coverage compared with 28 million if the Affordable Care Act were left in place, the Congressional Budget Office projects in its new report. So that's a difference between 15 million Americans uninsured and 28 million Americans uninsured. I think healthcare should be a right and we should have Medicare for all, but what do I know? 28 million uninsured is certainly better than 50 million uninsured. I know that for sure. But the Republican Party just says, people, they're just bothersome. They're cumbersome to my general enrichment and my greed. In exchange for these coverage losses, the Senate bill's weakening of consumer protections for health insurance policyholders, healthcare corporations would enjoy hundreds of dollars of billions of tax cuts. On net, the bill would reduce the federal budget deficit by $420 billion. I mentioned that before. So, tax cuts for the rich, that's inevitable in the Republican Party. And also, hundreds of billions of dollars in tax cuts for the healthcare corporations. Boom. That's what you get when you vote Republican. So, again, this new bill, this revised bill, is nothing better. Don't let your guard down, because the CBO report has proved that it is just as disastrous as we initially anticipated. And their plan B of just repealing is pretty awful as well. All right, guys, stay alert, stay woke, as they say, and have a great day.